Hi people, welcome to Blue UK Jazz Dance, welcome to the Blue Lab. Blue Lab is my space. I'm a visual learner. It's important for people today to know that teaching has changed a lot for people. I'm a UK Jazz Dance artist and I have a lab. This is my lab space. I'm a visual learner. The way I learn, I'm a UK Jazz Dance artist, but I'm a dyslexic artist. And part of the way I learn, I use technology. So I've got ideas today. If I want to do a talk, all I do is put it on video and get someone to transcribe it up. You know what I'm saying? So what happened, technology has been one of the greatest things for me in my lab, because immediately what happens if I want to develop a dance move, I just video it because I can't remember it. And then if I'm working with individuals, I've got ideas. What I do, I send it by film. I don't even put it on audio. Just send it by film. That's what I do, and I love it. Now, one of the key things I want to share with people, this is my lab. And my lab is a sanctuary away from people that scrutinize me. As a dancer who's self-trained, I had a lot of scrutiny. People putting me down as a person with special education needs. Before UK Jazz Dance was recognized, it was debased. And you have to understand, all ordinary people's dances have been debased, but even recognized dances were debased. In the 1800s, ballet was debased. You have to understand that. You have to know the history of dance. So basically, my dance lab, I created to do a lot of research into dance myself. And part of my work has been throughout the world. I've created talks and lectures and taken my Blue Lab to spaces and places and shown people photographs to say that dancers did research. And it was only because of individual DJs, Western DJs, disrespecting us, who didn't know nothing about the culture, identifying this art form has nothing to it, it's insignificant. Well, that's a lie, because many of the dancers I know all have labs. They're flats. If you see their flats, and they're artists, they're not just dancers. There's no dancer I know yet who's not involved in art. Yeah, they're involved in art and design in some way, some type of job that they wanted. They were involved in activities to do with art and design, interior design. A lot of people were interior designers. People need to understand they were fashion designers, they were hair designers. Many of the dancers are involved in the creative culture industries. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's important. So this is a picture of me modeling as an individual fashion show that I did. Fashion gave us the first inroads for UK jazz dancers to get a platform. Do you understand? Now, I come from the Jono Brothers. The Jono Brothers, we're dancers. Do you understand? Right. I came from a family that created events. We created our own events. We were self-help, self-reliant. We didn't rely on other people's events to put on what we were doing. Do you understand? Within the church, we created the first dance hall events that raised money for individuals to go to Lord's. Do you understand? For the church. Never been done before. And we changed dancehall overnight, because dancehall was just reggae music. And then what happened was, my brother was in a sound system. He created the first ever sound system, one of the first sound systems to play soul, funk, disco in a dance hall. Do you understand? And have talent competition in there, and it be for an intergenerational community. Okay? It's important for people to understand. So this is the Blue Lab. I'm talking about the Blue Lab is a space where I do my creative activities. Now, they call it Creative Hub. If you're in, say, example, Manchester University, they have Creative Hub. That's what they call it. Well, a long time ago, African diaspora people, when you think of jazz, what did they have? They had the spaces and places that they went to jam with each other. Do you understand? Right, they're creative hubs. And what people are trying to make out, and I have to say this, Western education writes out African diaspora contribution to the arts, from great African kingdoms to Asian kingdoms to great Caribbean kingdoms. You understand what I'm telling you today? Right, the right us out of the arts as though we have nothing to do with it. Now, many people know where I'm a qualified arts administrator. I went back to university to get qualified. I was a vocational one. People said having qualifications show that I have the technical knowledge, that I took interest in investing to promote my art form, yeah, by learning to get qualifications on how to promote my art. You can have good art, but if you don't have good arts management, people with a vision to project that art in a positive light, what happens? What you want, it gets lost. So I have a mission statement, which is to promote the positive images and energy of my African culture, heritage, arts, and wider uses. I went back to university to learn how to analyze how best to promote my art. Do you know what I'm saying? With to raise the prestige, and one of them was through the Blue Lab, which I started to do events around the Blue Lab a very long time ago, around 1981, when I first had a full-time lab, me and my brother together. Our space was like a lab space. That's it. It was a creative hub. And what happened, I did these projects called Student Empowering Students, Student Empowering Communities, Artists Empowering Students, Artists Empowering Communities, and I took the lab photographs of the, oh my God, do you do that? Yeah, well, I'm an artist. Yeah, my father is an artist, mum's into art and design. At home, my parents have labs at home. So for us to have a lab is nothing. Yeah, and the lab space originally was a small space in our bedrooms. Yeah, then I got my own bedroom and I made that into lab space. My brother had his own bedroom and he made it into lab space where he did electronics. My brother became a qualified electronic engineer. He had his little lab space. I did scientific experiments in my bedroom. Do you understand? I had Airfix because I wanted to be an RAF. I wanted to be an RAF pilot. Do you understand? But you had to learn about engines and all that. We had things in our bedrooms. Do you know what I'm saying? And people perception of us was wrong, and I was the first individual to start showing people this is the inside of my home. Yeah, so don't get it twisted. We know what creative hubs are, and if you use your nous, you will know. If you look at African diaspora people into music, into dance, anything to do with the creative industry, they have a place where they do that, and that's generally in the home because of oppression. Yeah, we weren't allowed to have all these spaces and places that other people have to do what they're doing. We're the least to be in universities. Do you understand what I'm telling you? With creative hubs and getting funding to do research and development. I did all my research and development to do with dance. I did at home. Have people got that? So here I've got on my wall talks about jam sessions. Why would I put jam sessions? Because jam sessions was spaces. Jam sessions were created in certain places and places where artists went. Certain artists got together in the quiet. Yeah. To work on, for example, bebop, how it developed, modern jazz musicians, certain musicians found key individuals to work together, places which were free from scrutiny of people criticizing what they were doing so they could develop their art. Have you got what I'm saying, right? Boom. Now this is my own art space. I'm doing a fashion little thing. What happened, one of the key things, I'm into interior design because my dad taught me interior design. People are unaware that the creative artists had their own bohemian parties, and what we did, we could get access to galleries to exhibit our photographs and our art. We used our homes. So I used to photograph my art, do you understand, my paintings, and put them up in parties. That's what I used to do. I wasn't interested in galleries. I wasn't bothered about it because I did a lot of research to do. For example, 1960, a lot of underground arts movements were created where people were starting to create their own galleries in like laundrettes in the home so people could see the work, because the establishment wouldn't allow certain the local community artists' work to be seen. Do you understand? Beatles were part of that, and a lot of young people, middle class kids and ordinary kids in art schools started to make create a change in the 1960s. Do you know what I'm saying? They were sick of the oppression that the creative industries was causing. Now you have to understand the Arts Council of England was called SEMA, came in 1942 after the war, but it wasn't for us. It wasn't for the ordinary person. It was for the middle classes and upper classes that arts were created. Do you understand? And they were drawing on the practice that we had brought. What happened was the arts was included in British society after the war to raise morale and spirit. Who had done that first? African diaspora people had brought their music into the world, jazz, to make people upbeat, to help them raise their morale and spirit. Where was it used? Pre the war, in the war, and after the war. Even today, jazz, dance, and music is still being used. Now, as an individual, I created my own type of jazz dance from the UK. Do you understand? And it was developed during Great Britain to UK as an individual, because I was born in 1960. I was born up in one of the greatest vintage periods ever. That time, spiritual jazz is coming from the horn of my favorite artist, Coltrane, and I love his wife. Now, one of the key things is it was a period where women's rights, women were fighting for the rights, everybody was fighting for the rights to be heard, to stop the oppression, etc. So one of the key things why I created my creative hub is to stop facing oppression, stop facing suppression of individuals, teachers telling me in the arts, you can't do this and you can't do that. Don't tell me how to do anything because you don't know what I do. I'm a pioneer of my own dance form. At the age of 8 years old, you'll hear constantly over. I wrote my own play, I directed it, I produced it at an important, crucial time in my life after people tried to kill me in my primary school. I was sent to Grenada as part of rehabilitation intervention, and there I gained the confidence from a teacher to write my own play and do my own play, because I was doing them at home. She encouraged me and said, look, do this, boom, boom. Because in Grenada, what happened, I realized in the Caribbean that young people with talent in the arts can get scholarships to university. Young people with talent in music can get scholarships to university. Young people with sports talent, which I showed in the Caribbean at 8 years old. I was an amazing cricket player, yeah. And cricket's a big thing there. Amazing athlete, and I was an amazing athlete. I was a top person in my class in the Grenada. So I stood out as well as a top dancer, as well as a visual artist. You know what I'm saying? They really understood that I was a prodigy in these areas. Now, one of the things they encouraged me to share my dancing that I was doing. Now, my dad's Jamaican, mom's Grenadian. I knew all my dad's dances because I saw him do it, and he taught me some of it as well, and my mum. So I had that confidence to do it, but I didn't have the confidence in Britain in an all-white school because I was treated as dumb because they did a IQ test and told me that I was dumb. In Grenada, they didn't treat me like that. They looked after me, they cared for me, they encouraged me, and that led to me to feel free to express my culture with them. And it ended up, oh, I'd done this play called Adventures of Swing Kid, let me share it with you. I wrote it, I composed it, etc., etc. That was the greatest move I ever did, because I continued to do that play from there to now just changing it. And I realized that some people, many people, don't have the confidence to stand up and do a one-person play. You know, I thought it was easy for everybody to do, because I did that in my play. For my play at home, I pretend I'm a director, I'm a producer, I'm an actor, I'm a composer. Do you understand? I'm a musician, I'm an entertainer. You know, like Sammy Davis Jr., John Bubbles. These are actors from America. Bojangles, people I saw on television, cabaret artists I saw. You know, I did that at home as a person, and I was very much into Charlie Chaplin. I was into Buster Keaton. I was into Keystone Cops. All these things came part of me because they were part of studying the era of jazz. Do you understand? As an individual, and I became an entertainer that way. And what happened was I came renowned for it. But I thought everybody could do it, and I realized everybody can't do it, because I realized that 90% of people, and what happens is they're scared to do presentations, and that's adults in Britain. And I was shocked when I saw that report. But because the reason is because they don't practice. And so I had a lab where I practiced these things. So if I said to someone, oh, I just got up and did a presentation, one person show. No, I had to practice at home. Do you understand? I had to practice modeling. Yeah, I had to practice dancing. I had to practice writing, and this is me practicing. I'm giving it insight into my lab, this little small space here for people to understand. I actually design in my home. I create every project I've got. I create a different wall. Do you understand? Right. I put pictures that stimulate me. So, example, when I'm involved in fashion, I take the clothes, right? Well, I get pictures of the designer's clothes. I'm doing a fashion show. I get pictures of the designer's clothes and I put up on my wall. Because I want to create a theme about what I'm doing. Do you understand? That's how I developed myself as an artist. This is a picture of me smiling and giving understanding. Even though as a child, I was a child that was unhappy in sense of how people treated me, because I was treated in a derogatory way because I had special education needs. That's what made me unhappy at times. But generally, I was a happy child who had an active, imaginative mind. And what happened was, dance, amazingly, dance raised my self-consciousness. Dance gave me escapism. Every child, every adult must have an activity that enables them escapism. Yeah? Dance kept me focused. I was unaware to it. Sports kept me focused. I was a very active child involved in arts, very much active child involved in sports, very active child involved in helping organise fundraising things within the church and outside the church in my school. I realised I was a very active child, a very imaginative child. And what happened was I was a child who had happiness. One of the key things, I talk about the negatives, but at the same time I was happy. We live a life with what is called opposites. And sometimes what happens when people write on their lives, they forget about the happy times they had, because everybody has some form of happy time, or they create it. And what you'll find, those who traumatize, children are traumatized, they create a space for themselves to be happy. I did by creating the lab. In here, I'm very, very happy. Do you understand? I come home and I'm away from the world. And I don't bring anybody into the lab. No chance, you. No. These are some photographs. These are photographs for my publicity. I worked with a photographer. I initiated that photography shoot in 2015 with a photographer called Jackie Miller, great photographer as an individual. I want to work with some other photographers, my own son, Curtis, and a photographer called Tanya Weeks. I want to work with her as an individual. Because these people are very much encouraging, they're respectful, because I got ripped off 2010, 2015. I did photographs for individuals by going to their events. I instigated these photographs, by the way, and I asked, I'll come and dance in your place. Bumbo, you can use the photographs, what you're doing, but I want them for my own publicity. And people refuse to give me photographs. Do you understand? So one of the key things in 2015, after being ripped off, after being actually had a negative experience with a photographer, I did a 4-hour photographic shoot, my clothes, and the photographer disappeared for 4 months. And when I tried to dress that photographer down, they refused to have that. They tried to bully me in the photographs. I said, well, I'm going to seek legal help around it. That time now, because I identified that, they decided to character assassinate me and try to make out I was abusing them, which was not the case at all as an individual. They were unaware that I had a Blue Lab at home. So this is one of the reasons I documented the Blue Lab. I tell people, document. Any artist must document their process. If you go into court and people are trying to blemish you, I am a professional dance artist. Get this clear. Not trying to be, not wanting to be, I am it. My practice shows it. So if I go into court with individuals who are freeloaders riding off the back of me, courts, this is my work. I've gone back to university. I've invested 4-5 years in university, spending a lot of money to advance my career. I've come back out. Part of my advancement and my career, I need photographs, new ones, showing my work today. So I've had photographs pre-university, in university, and post. And post-university, all I've had is people rip me off because vintage is big. A person created their own site, a photographer created their own site, a secret site to sell my photographs, and I caught him. Kept it in-house because an organisation he was working for, I was working with them, and I told them, look, what I want from you is to bring that photography to the table and negotiate me getting my photographs through contract, etc., etc., and I'll keep my mouth shut. Let's do it in-house. They never helped me do that, and I never saw that photographer again. These are the type of things. So what happened, basically, people unaware, from 1980, I've been up to London, north, south, east and west, 99.9% of video, 99.9% of photographs of me, 99% of visual art, because I've done work to do with sculpturing, worked with artists. I have not seen that work. You have to understand what I'm telling you in this room today. Do you understand? So these photographs are important because me and Jackie, I instigated working with Jackie Miller, and we made a deal between us. I can use these photographs for promoting myself was the deal. That's why they're up there. Do you understand? They're part of the work, the photographs that I'm going to use. 2012 is important.